Well, you're not going to believe this one. Trump's recent rally at Madison Square Garden wasn't just big, it was a spectacle. It's almost been a week and the MSM is still talking about it, reaching for every possible angle to criticize the event. Their latest focus isn't even on Trump himself, but comedian Tony Hinchcliffe for cracking a joke. Surprisingly, Jon Stewart defended him, and today we're covering his and JD's reaction to the whole fiasco. We'll also talk about Biden's recent appearance, where he made even worse comments about Trump voters. But before I go on with the video, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more discussions like this.
But of course, for the media, there was one moment in particular that raised the alarms.
The opening act, grabbing headlines for all the wrong reasons. A comedian who offered unfunny, racist, cringeworthy jokes.
Basically calling Puerto Ricans trash.
The most repulsive racial jokes about Latinos.
Disgusting and hateful.
So incredibly crude.
Frankly, just too X-rated to play here.
Extremely vile so-called jokes.
Extremely vile so-called jokes. She name-checked my comedy album from the 90s.
You could argue the joke was not funny or that the decision to make it in a setting as politically charged is controversial, but calling it X-rated is pure sensationalism at this point, and I thought it was kind of funny. The legacy media made sure the conversation went beyond comedy and into the realm of identity, race, and the political implications of such humor in such a major rally. I think Tony's joke sparked outrage partly because of the context. The Trump rally added layers to how people interpreted the joke. It's easy to see how this single moment received an almost outsized level of attention, and good for Tony on this one. I love his comedy. And what's worse is the media's fixation on the joke, which overshadowed everyone's speeches at the rally, and there were plenty of them. By amplifying an out-of-place one-liner and framing it in terms of race and politics, the MSM effectively turned a minor comedic moment into a national talking point, which they needed badly just a few days ahead of a consequential election. There's also the point that Tony does roast comedy, so this whole fiasco was to be expected. Jon talked about this exact thing and had a really interesting take on it.
Now, obviously, in retrospect, having a roast comedian come to a political rally a week before Election Day and roasting a key voting demographic, probably not the best decision by the campaign politically. But to be fair, the guy's really just doing what he does. I mean, here he is at the Tom Brady roast a few months ago.
The great Jeff Ross, ladies and gentlemen. Jeff is so Jewish, he only watches football for the coin toss. Gronk, you look like the Nazi that kept burning himself on the ovens. Kevin is so small that when his ancestors picked cotton, they called it deadlifting.
Yes, of course. Terrible. Boo. Yes.
Tony's whole comedic style is built on roasting. Go watch his podcast, Kill Tony. I do every week. His jokes are always edgy, sarcastic, and aimed at shocking the audience. So when he made that Puerto Rico joke, he was just doing his thing, nothing out of the ordinary for him. Roasting is his bread and butter, and his fans expect him to push boundaries unapologetically. But this time, the setting threw a curveball his way and the joke didn't land like he'd hoped. You see, when you're in a comedy club or on a podcast, people show up expecting boundary-pushing humor. And Tony's style fits right in, but a major political rally? That's a different area altogether. But at an event as big and charged as a Trump rally, every word's under the national microscope with a much bigger and more diverse audience tuning in. The political context made the joke feel more loaded, and without his usual comedic setting, it took on a different tone. So while Tony didn't veer from his usual style, the stage changed everything, showing just how much the right setting matters in making edgy humor work as intended. Jon also talked about the setting and how Tony's segment might have been a miscalculation from the Trump campaign.
There's something wrong with me. I find that guy very funny. So, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, bringing him to a rally and have him not do roast jokes, that'd be like bringing Beyonce to a rally and not have... Oh.
That's what it all boils down to. Comedy's wildly subjective. What cracks one person up might not even get a chuckle from another. You don't have to agree with every type of humor. It has to be funny, and that's the beauty of it. Some people love slapstick, others prefer dark humor or satire, and each style has its own audience. Sometimes humor is just about taking risks, having fun, and making people see things differently. But seeing the massive backlash, Trump was quick to disavow Tony as he went on an interview with Sean Hannity and said, quote, "I have no idea who he is," adding, "Somebody said there was a comedian that jokes about Puerto Rico or something, and I have no idea who he is. Never saw him, never heard of him, and don't want to hear of him." Well, just so you know, Tony has the largest live show on the internet at the moment. Now, I will say I think there's some truth to what he says because a presidential candidate scheduled just days ahead of election can be really hectic, so the preparation for the rally was carried by his campaign, and someone decided to slip Tony in. JD chose a different way to tackle this topic and talked about it during his recent rally in Wisconsin.
Now, I've heard about the joke. I haven't actually seen the joke that you mentioned, but I think that it's telling that Kamala Harris's closing message is essentially that all of Donald Trump's voters are Nazis, and you should get really pissed off about a comedian telling a joke. That is not the message of a winning campaign. And my own view on this is, look, again, I haven't seen the joke. Maybe it's a stupid racist joke, as you said. Maybe it's not. I haven't seen it. I'm not going to comment on the specifics of the joke. But I think that we have to stop getting so offended at every little thing in the United States of America. I'm so over it. Our country was built by frontiersmen who conquered the wilderness. We are not going to restore the greatness of American civilization if we get offended at every little thing.
I find it hard to believe that JD doesn't know about the joke, especially since he was present at the rally himself, but I see the point he's making and I'm actually happy because we've always talked about how hypersensitive our culture has become on this channel. In fact, JD had a great interview with comedian Theo Vaughn. We've also raised an alarm on how it can negatively impact comedians, mainly because it can limit their creativity and the ability to engage in the kind of humor that deals with social issues and uncomfortable truths. Tony's case is a great example of how cancel culture works, but since we're at such a crucial time in this election season, the Trump campaign took the tactical decision to brush the incident off, since they can't lose voters at this point. But nothing comes close to Biden's reaction, and there was nothing strategic or tactical about it.
Donald Trump has no character. He doesn't give a damn about the Latino community. And just the other day, a speaker at his rally called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. Well, let me tell you something. I don't know the Puerto Rican that I know, or Puerto Rico where I'm in my home state of Delaware. They're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of Latinos is unconscionable, and it's un-American. It's totally contrary to everything we've done, everything we've been.
This was during a call organized by the Hispanic advocacy group Voto Latino, which has endorsed Kamala for the presidency. It's an unexpected own goal for sure. Tony's comments came during a comedy routine, so he didn't mean any harm, and it was just a joke. On the other hand, Biden's comments were serious, and they were directed towards the other half of the country. As expected, the Democrats were in full damage control mode. Andrew Bates, who is the White House spokesman, said the president, quote, referred to the hateful rhetoric at the Madison Square Garden rally as garbage. Kamala chose to copy Trump on this one, as she always does, and she distanced herself from Biden and said, quote, listen, I think first of all, he clarifies his comments, but let me be clear. I strongly disagree with any criticism of people based on who they vote for. I know it might sound Machiavellian, but both campaigns decided to do the practical thing here so that the months of work and money poured so far onto their bid for the presidency don't go to waste. That's politics for you. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think these comments from Tony or Biden will affect the election results? Let's get the conversation rolling in the comments down below, and do not forget to share this video with your friends so they can stay in the loop.